Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Carver Zoning Board of Appeals. We are here in Room 1 in the Carver Town Hall. It is February 12, 2025, and due to technological challenges, we are starting a bit late tonight. It's about 6:52 or 3. But we have 5 members present. Just for the record, Member Poirier is not able to make it tonight. But we do have 5, which is what our usual board composition is, with 1 alternate for a 6th member who will be stepping in tonight for the absent Member Poirier. That's Anita Dahl, who's sitting to my far right, who is well qualified and able to take on the role of a voting member tonight. So before we get started with the cases that are in front of us, let me make a quick introduction because I observe that we have some students with us tonight. We had a whole bunch the last time too, but we have a couple of stragglers tonight. So we're glad that they're here. And to my immediate left is James Barrington, who has been with us now for how long, Mr. Barrington?
A long time.
And he is a former educator and is well-versed at this point because he's been with us so long, as he says in the application of the Carver zoning bylaws. We're happy to have him. To my immediate left is Jennifer Cullum, who is one of our newer members, but also a full voting member. Jennifer does a lot in her regular day job with the application and interpretation of governmental regulations, and of course that's what we deal with here too, right? The application interpretation of the Carver zoning bylaws. And to her right is the estimable Anita Dahl, who is the newest member of the board, typically our alternate, but in the situation at night, in the absence of Member Poirier, she will assume a voting role. We're happy to have her as well. She works in an electrical business, so she has a business background as well and has voted on a number of Carver Zoning Board of Appeal cases in the past, so this is not her first rodeo. And yours truly, I'm an attorney in Carver for many years and have chaired the board now for a number of years, although I'm trying to get out of it. Mr. Barrington, watch out. Next time we reorganize. Anyway.
Fran.
What?
Don't forget Fran.
Oh, I'm not forgetting Fran. Can you hear me okay, Fran? You can? Because we're not hearing you.
She's muted.
She's muted?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you unmute yourself?
Sure, I muted my mic so that there's no background static.
Okay. Because there's a party going on there where you are? She's muted again. Anyway. We will begin tonight's meeting by directing our attention to the previous board meeting minutes of October 30, 2024. These are the minutes from our most recent meeting. Is that right? No, it's not October 30, 2024. It is January 15, 2025. I'm looking at old material here. And as is our custom, those minutes in draft form have been disseminated amongst the board members so that they can read them in advance and determine whether they wish to make any changes, amendments, or modifications. So I ask first if everybody's had an opportunity to receive and review those draft meeting minutes from our board meeting of January 15.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody want to make any changes, amendments, or modifications?
No.
No.
All right. So hearing no opposition, I ask for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Of January 15,
January
2025.
15th,
And Ms.
2025.
Cullum seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. This is a unanimous approval of those meeting minutes of January 15, 2015. Thank you, everybody. Now, we have two cases on for tonight, and then we have some discussion that we will go into after these two cases are heard. So, the first one is a continued public hearing, case 18-21-1-R, the petitioners being Jeffrey and Deborah Silva. Ms. Dahl, would you be kind enough to read the public meeting notice into the record?
Public hearing.
Get
case-
very close to the mic.
Oh, sorry. Case 18-21-1-R, petitioner Jeffrey and Deborah Silva, seeking dimensional variances pursuant to section 5222 of the Carver zoning bylaw for property located at 199 Plymouth Street in Carver, Mass. Assessors map 12, lot 21, lot 2-1-R, so as to construct a 32 by 40, 1,281 square feet, three-car garage in a residential agricultural district. Dimensional variances are being requested due to the need for side setback relief. Section 2320, approximately 15 feet was needed, 30 feet is required. Floor area, section 2245, 1,280 square feet is being requested, 700 square feet is the maximum allowed. And the height, see definition section in the Carver zoning bylaw, no accessory building or structure may be higher than 20 feet or 10 feet less than the height of the principal building or structure on the same lot, whichever is greater. Building plan displays structure at 30 feet, 8 inches from finished grade of the Carver zoning bylaw.
Well done, thank you. And I do have one thing that I'd like to draw the attention of the board to, and that is the assessor's map is incorrectly referenced as map 12. It's actually map 18. So if everybody could please note that in their own records, and for purposes of the public hearing, this is assessor's map 18, not assessor's map 12, just a typographical error. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. So, before we begin with the Silvas, who I observe to be present, while I'm making this remark, why don't you both come up to these chairs, sit in the hot seats, and we have had some previous public hearings on this case, as you know. The public hearing on this matter was opened on December 4, 2024. And we took evidence from the petitioners at that time. And additionally, we received a letter from a supporting abutter, which has become part of the record. We discussed the fact that because this structure would have a second floor, that needed to be counted towards the total square footage. So what was originally anticipated as a total square footage of 1,280 square feet is actually larger than that because the second floor was not calculated. So we went over all of those things, and we were able to determine as well, based upon a letter from the building commissioner, that there was more work that needed to be done by the petitioners in this case. The plans that were submitted were incomplete. They did not address a number of technical construction issues which he wanted addressed, which we supported him on. And in view of the relief which you were requesting, and in the context of the proposed construction at the subject site, we decided as a board that a site visit would be appropriate. So we came and had a nice little visit with you folks. Thanks for hosting us on that Saturday morning. Better then that we did it than now. It's so much colder, right? And we had that on December 21st. And as a result of that hearing date, or that walkthrough, we scheduled a subsequent public hearing for the date of January 15th. Now, that did not happen because there was confusion or, I guess confusion is the best word for it. There was confusion about when this matter was going to be coming up. I don't cast any blame on anybody. We all make mistakes about dates, this one included. So we voted as a board in your absence to continue the case to tonight. And here we are. And where we had left off with you folks was that you were going to supply us with new, updated, more detailed plans that would satisfy both the building commissioner and all of us. So I'm going to turn this meeting over to whichever one of you wants to take the lead, and you can tell us what you've done or decided not to do, the relief that you feel you still need, and then we'll ask our questions.
Okay, so I guess that'll be me. I'm the one who likes to talk. So again, my name is Debbie Silva. Live
And
in
Debbie,
29
bring that microphone close to you, would you please, because she's,
Thank you, Steve.
she
Is that
can't
better?
Thank
hear.
you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank
Is
you.
that better?
Yeah,
Okay.
and speak right up. I can hear you and
Okay.
everybody up here, but she needs to hear too.
Sure, absolutely.
And before we get going, I just want to ask you, do you have any objection to her participating remotely in this hearing?
Absolutely not, it's fine.
Okay, and again,
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
of course.
want you to remember to keep your voice up. It's
Yes.
natural for me, given what
Yep.
I do for a living, but I need to
I'm
remind you
usually
of that.
told to keep it down, so I'm excited to be able to use my normal voice.
That's good. Use it.
All right.
Go ahead.
So again, my name is Debbie Silva. I live at 199 Plymouth Street. This is my husband Jeff. We've lived there for over 30 years, blah, 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 all that fun stuff. We've always intended on, at some point in life, when we were able to, when the kids were grown, to build some type of a garage so that he can do what he needs to do in a different building away from me, and at the same time, we could store vehicles. When our home was constructed, when we were given, we actually got a variance to build our home because where our driveway sits, we only have a very small amount of space from the side of the home to the property line. So it took away the ability for us to ever build a garage on that side. On the other side, as we shared with you when you did the site visit, we have a 30-something-year-old Japanese maple that I would take my own limb off before I would get rid of that tree. So putting a garage on that side is simply not an option. We inherited property next door, which we have since split up a bit and moved our lines around so that our son can build a home, which he's in the process of doing, and we could take the existing driveway, bring it out back, and construct this garage. We were seeking relief for the under three different areas. One was the side setback relief because we were looking to construct this 15 feet from the line. We are taking the great advice of both the board and our engineer and our builder who came out. We spent a lot of time going over this building, going over what was needed, going over what we could give up, and we are moving it according to as you see on the map that I provided you with, 31 feet from the line. So we will no longer be seeking the relief for the sideline, the side setback. We were originally going to construct a garage that was going to be 32 by 40. In order to bring the height down some, we were able to bring it down to 28 by 38. So we took some footage off of both the length and the width. And the height is now, because of that, it reduced the square footage some. Looks like it's about maybe 200 feet, 200 and something feet, square feet, from the original number, which I know is different because now we have to count the upstairs. And also, the height is now at 26 feet and 7/18 of an inch. So we were able to shave off about 4 feet from that garage. I think we shared with you one of the challenges that we have is that this garage, the main floor, we need a minimum of 11 feet in order to have the lift that we're looking to have in that garage. You need to have so many feet of clearance, or you can't have the lift, which would defeat the purpose of having most of it. So we provided you tonight with plans for both. They are complete plans for the garage, changed to the 28 by 38, as well as the new plan showing the building being 31 feet from the line.
Okay, so your relief now that you need is size, right?
Correct.
Any other
Size and
relief?
height.
Size and height. You no longer need the side setback
Correct.
relief because you've moved the building over.
We did. Yep,
You've moved the building over in the direction of
the bog.
the bog.
Yeah. So now, and we talked about it a little bit, I think a couple of you had suggested this, was having this garage face the house and just jog it over some, so that way we would still be able to utilize the driveway, would take us right into the bays, but it would eliminate that need to be pushed up against the side, the property line.
Okay. So the size now, the first floor is 28 by 38?
Correct.
Who's got the calculator?
Well, it's actually on the plan, tells you what the square footage of the first floor is, and it tells you what the square footage of the second floor is. Unfortunately, I did not do the math before I got here. These are literally
Barrington-
hot off the presses.
Mr. Barrington can do the math in his head.
Our engineer is in
Figured it in my
Yarmouthport, so he
head.
drove these plans up around 3 o'clock this afternoon.
So 28 by 38 on the first floor,
1,064 square feet.
1,054?
64.
64, 1,064. And second floor, what's the,
Looks like it would probably
what's
be
the
the
square footage?
same.
Should be represented on the plan.
Yeah, I think it's on the front page.
Second floor is 798 square feet, so the total of the building is 1,862 square feet.
What's going to be up there on the second floor? Is there going to be a full floor up there? Meaning a floor you can walk on?
Yes. Yep. There won't be heat or air conditioning, but it will be mainly used for storage. Really just used for
And when
storage.
he's in hot water, you send him up there.
Little cot.
Okay.
Did we decide 1858 total?
1862.
62.
So obviously, there's a need for size relief and height. Now, what is the height of the peak of the principal residence on the lot?
According to our carpenter was actually just up on the roof after that really bad windstorm we had, because we lost some of our flashing on the side. And according to him, it is 22.6 feet.
22 point what, 6?
6, yeah,
And that's the peak.
the peak.
But the peak of your garage, as planned, is over 26 feet. So the garage is going to be taller than the principal residence.
It will be, yes. However, the land back there is lower. So and it's a good amount low. It really kind of, you're walking down.
So in other words, what you're saying to us is that because the land is lower, it's not going to appear as if the new garage that you want to build is higher, the peak of the
No.
garage is going to be higher than the peak of the house.
Right, you're not gonna, you'll likely not even see it.
How much is it going to be brought down, would you say?
How much is the land, how
Yeah,
far down is the land
you're going to have to tell
slope?
me approximately how far the land dips down.
I would say at least 4 feet
Oh, more than that.
elevation.
From our house down to the back there, it's, because we have
I'm
a,
just guessing.
I mean, we have a,
Being conservative.
from
This is the
house-
land in the back, right?
Yeah, yeah, and from the house to our pool, which is right behind our house, we have a retaining wall, that is about a foot. So there's a foot right there, and then further, I would say that we're at least 6 to 8 feet. It's probably 6 to 8 feet, would be my guess.
Yeah, I remember there was a drop-off
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
So again, this will make it appear as if the peak of the proposed construction is going to be at least equal to or lower than the peak of the house.
absolutely.
Is that what you're saying,
Yep,
both of you?
absolutely. Without a doubt. I mean, I'm being conservative with my number, but I know it drops down significantly.
So you're
Any-
going to need size relief, you're going to need height relief.
Yes.
Ms. Dahl? Questions?
No,
Not yet?
not yet.
Ms. Cullum?
None,
Not yet?
not yet.
Mr. Barrington?
Yeah, they've already answered the questions that I was going to have, was the height of the current house. Actually, on that site visit, I thought it was higher than what they measured.
Yeah.
Just the angle, because the house seems to sit up just a little bit.
It does,
And then I
yeah.
remember the
Yeah.
drop-off.
We've graded
in the
everything
back.
away from the house since the beginning, and it started out that way from the beginning anyways. Our only other option with this plan, which the builder had initially talked about when we were exploring, well, what else could we do? Would be to eliminate one of these reliefs, would be to just do one floor and have it be a much bigger structure. But we simply don't have the land without going down into the bog. We
Right.
own it, but it's just not realistic.
I don't have anything else.
I neglected, and shame on me, to introduce our vice chair at the beginning, and that's Fran Mello, who is in the square over there. Ms. Mello has been with us for many years and has a wide and varied business background. We're happy to have her, and I lean on her for a lot of things, including stuff that's going to be happening later this evening. But for now, Ms. Mello, on this case, do you have any questions?
I am not looking at the maps of what was submitted tonight. Is there topography on the maps that would show exactly the drop of the grade?
No, I didn't.
I don't believe so.
No, I don't think
I don't
so.
think so.
I didn't see that.
So there is no topography on here?
No.
Okay, that was one question I had. The next question I had is, what are you guys gonna be doing with the second floor?
It's storage. It is much needed storage. Like I shared in our initial meeting, we have 6 adults that live in our home. And a 1-year-old who just turned a year-old today. So happy birthday, Cameron. So,
And a wife who loves to decorate for every holiday.
thanks. So, yeah, we are just exploding at the seams, and there's no way that we can build out our house any more than our house is built out as much as it could be.
Yep. I did not get the square footage of the second floor. Could someone,
798.
okay, so 106.4 on the first and 798 on the second?
Correct.
Total of 1862. Correct, Mr. Barrington?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I got for right now.
Well, I noticed that you had a big sigh there, If you have any other comments that you'd like to make as opposed to questions, we'd all be interested in
Honestly,
hearing.
I'm concerned about the height of the building based upon the bylaws, based upon precedent. We literally had a case before us last month where the building, it was the same scenario, and they found a way to lower the height of the building. And without seeing the plans, like, I can't tell without seeing the plans that are there, and I had asked Jill to send me the plans if they came in, but apparently they didn't come in before the meeting tonight, correct?
We brought them with the meeting, like, we brought them here
Yeah,
tonight
right.
because we just
Yep.
got them. We've been working on them just nonstop. Our builder was at the house yesterday. We've, like I said, we have hashed and rehashed this thing over and over again, and it's really, you know, without this relief, don't see how else. We took 4 feet off of, we were initially, we were looking at 30 feet.
Right.
And we were able to remove 4 feet. I really
Yeah.
genuinely, I full-throatedly believe that you will not see, that this building will not come out over the front of our house. It just won't. It's sitting far enough back. You're talking 100, it's 65 feet to the house, from the house to the road. So you're looking at 100, probably 150 feet from the road is going to be the front of this house, front of this
Yeah.
garage. It's going to be far enough back. We don't remove trees that we don't need to, so it's not going to be sitting out in the middle of nowhere. We are our own physical abutter, with the exception of the neighbor
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
provided the letter of support.
Yep.
I don't know what else to say.
I
Going
think you-
back to the drawing board, I just don't
Well, on the
see.
plans, one of my questions is, on the plans, is it 2 full floors and then a peak?
Is there any way that someone can, like, take a cell phone picture and send it over so you can see it?
Yeah.
Because
Well, it's
I
pretty
feel
big,
like we have the technology, right?
it's pretty big. Try, Jen.
I'll try.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you, Jen.
You got it. Let me see. One of these has a better, that's the first floor. This is out.
Is it picking up the whole page?
Is there an enclosed attic? I
No.
think that,
No, there isn't.
No.
that would be
No.
the answer,
That's
or
the
part of the answer of the question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep,
I didn't hear that. What?
There is no attic.
Oh, I get it. So you were wondering if it was going to be like a first floor, second floor, and then
And then,
a,
yeah.
no. It's
No
going to
attic.
be,
So you'll
Yeah.
have, you'll have
Yeah.
beams,
Yeah.
so you'll
Yeah.
just be beamed inside.
Right.
There won't be any like.
the only reason we're going to have that additional space in upstairs is because we're going to have a dormer in the front that's going to give us some extra leg room up there to
So
store
no
stuff.
attic and no plans to put in an attic after the fact?
No.
Oh, God, no. No, we're done. We're getting
All
too
right.
old for this.
Ms. Mello still has the floor.
It looks almost like it's about 10 feet, 10 and a half feet, Fran, from floor to top of the eave.
yep.
On that
I got
second
the
floor.
pictures, thank you. Yep,
Well, while she's studying those pictures, and she's a quick study, so she'll be back to us in a minute. On the second floor, will there be any heat
No.
installed?
Nope.
Will there be any plumbing
No.
installed? Any
Nope.
electricity installed?
I don't think we're going to have electricity. Will we have electricity?
You're going to need a
I don't
light
think
up
so.
there, aren't you?
Yeah,
Oh,
Well-
I'm sorry, you're right. We will have lighting up there.
Oh, I'm thinking like outlets and all that other, no. So, but yeah, lighting. We're
So
definitely going to need to have lights up there,
It'll be
yeah.
electrified.
Yep.
But will there be heat on the first floor?
I'm going to put in plumbing for the, like a space heater type thing eventually, but Not right
Well, that's
like
electric.
a mini split?
You plug
Yeah.
that in.
Right,
Right.
right. And then as
So
far.
we've already said it's going to be electrified, right? The
Right.
building
Yeah.
is going to be,
So that'll
Yep.
cover it.
Yep,
but heat on the first floor, yes or no?
Yes.
Heat, yes. Plumbing, yes or no on the first floor?
plumbing would only be,
Outside spigots.
yeah, outside spigots that are gonna run
Okay, so
from.
no plumbing on the first floor or the second,
Right,
but there will be heat on the first floor, correct?
Yes,
But not on the second floor.
right.
correct.
And the plumbing is going to tie into, we have irrigation, so it's going to tie into the irrigation.
You mean
so-
your underground irrigation system?
The spigots will
Yep.
tie into that.
Yep.
I'm
So-
asking about interior stuff for now.
Oh, yeah, no plumbing on the inside.
So you're going to have it's going to be electrified first and second floor. You're going to have heat on the first floor only, no plumbing,
Correct.
except for the spigot outside.
That's right.
Is that right?
Yes.
Back to you, Ms. Mello.
Yep, no, I'm looking at them. It's a very attractive building
Thank you.
and big. Big.
It's all the people we have. We, usually when you get older, you lose people. We keep gaining them.
That's nice. You can never have too much family.
Yeah, it's a Portuguese problem.
Okay, I'm going to inventory the board again here. Mr. Barrington, any final questions, comments, or concerns?
No, I'm all set.
Ms. Dahl, any final questions, comments, or concerns?
No, I'm
Ms.
good.
Cullum, any final questions, comments, or concerns? Ms. Mello, any final questions,
Yeah.
comments, or concerns?
No, the only other, well, if they're not requiring or asking for the variance, we don't need to see it on the plot plan.
That's correct.
Yep.
They-
No, I'm good.
They don't require any dimensional variances outside of height. And of course, they will require a relief on the size.
Size. Yep.
So the next thing we need to do is frame this in connection with a 40A argument. When I refer to 40A, that's Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, and we are allowed, under state law, to issue variances in the event that there's something unusual about either the shape of your lot, or the topography of your lot, or the soil of your lot. Make the argument for us. Why is it that you qualify for a variance in this case?
I mean, honestly, there's really, as you've walked the land, there's really nowhere else to put it. We have that space.
The shape of the lot is a little odd, is it not?
It's family land. It's
So
typical
the
family land.
shape of the
that's been-
lot, it's wider up near the road, it gets
Correct.
narrower in the back. I'm making the
Yep.
argument for you, by the
I
way.
appreciate that.
Ms. Mello is nodding, yes, she remembers vividly. She walked that lot with me.
Yeah,
So shape, I think, is probably your best argument, and also in terms of the topography.
yeah,
On the height
right.
issue. So I think arguably you would qualify under one or both of those 40A requirements for us to be able to break the law, which is what you're asking us to do. You're asking us to break the local law and make an exception for you. And this state
We
law
are.
allows us to do it under these circumstances. Right, Mr. Barrington?
Correct.
Yeah, he's listening to me intently. He's waiting for me to slip up. Ms. Cullum? Yes, she is too. Ms. Dahl? She just laughs. And Ms. Mello, what do you got?
I'm good at this point.
Okay, and you're okay with the height based on the representation that the lot dips down in the back, thereby making it appear, the new structure, to be at the same peak as that of the house, or even lower for that matter? You're okay with that?
Okay. Yes, based upon the character of the neighborhood. The fact that where they are sited is extremely rural. It's not per se a subdivision or a development. You have many, many acres of land, and it's more, I look at it, you're utilizing it more for your cranberry bogs and be able to run your business.
Yep.
Okay. That it?
That's it?
I'm going to ask for a motion to close the public hearing at this point, unless somebody from the audience has a question or comment or concern of some kind on which they would like to be heard. Seeing no hands raised, I ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
I can't hear you.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we are now,
Aye.
we are now closed, which means that we are not taking any more evidence. We're done with our discussions. And now we go to a vote. Actually, we go to findings first. I gotta thin out these files. Okay. I suggest that the board adopt the following finding. That owing to circumstances relating to the soil conditions, shape, and/or topography of the structures or lot, but not affecting the district generally, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the bylaw, that's the Town of Carver bylaw, would involve substantial hardship to the petitioner. And that relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the bylaw. Do I hear a motion to adopt that finding?
Motion to adopt.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now we go to our actual decision. That finding undergirds or is the foundation for this decision. And I ask for a motion from one of us to grant dimensional variances, size and height. On the size, it would be 700 is allowed as of right, correct? So, quick math, 1,162 square feet. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Ms. Dahl, is that right?
I believe so.
Okay. Ms. Mello? It looks like it's going to have
I
to be
have-
1162.
1862.
No, that's the total, but they're allowed by right 700.
Correct.
So the relief granted is going to need to be 1162. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And on the height, you say you've reduced the height to 626 feet and 7/18 of an inch.
Correct.
So let's go to 27. Let's think of this as 27. And I think the bylaw says not higher than
20.
20. So we'll grant a height variance in this case of 7 feet based upon the topography, as you discussed with the land sloping down in the back, so it appears that everything's basically on the same level, right? So I'm looking for a motion to grant 2 dimensional variances, one for 1,162 square feet in size, counting, of course, the second floor, and another, 7 feet on height, right?
Yes.
Correct, Ms. Mello?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Do you want me to make that motion?
You can do it if you like.
I will make a motion to grant relief of 1162 on size and 7 feet on height.
Second?
Anybody have any further discussion before we go to vote?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Been a long struggle, hasn't it? Well, good luck with this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And when
I
it's
appreciate
up and looking beautiful,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
will there be any conditions
Yes.
about plumbing?
yes,
heating?
no, they're not excused yet, but I was going to ask you, once it's up, make sure you invite us over for beer and pizza when the weather's a little warmer. We
He's
come to
food
the
motivated.
we come to these meetings very hungry, because it's
The
during
pool should be
supper
open,
time.
so we'll make a day of it.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
All right, now, the vice chair rightly points out that we need to list conditions. And the first one that I would suggest that the board consider, and we're going to vote on these independently, the garage will not be used for commercial purposes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes, all right. So do I hear a motion to accept that condition?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That the garage will not be used for residential purposes, residential living purpose. In other words, you're not going to put anybody in there. You're not going to rent it out. You're not going to be sleeping in there unless she kicks you out of the house. Okay? All right. So will not be used for residential living purposes. Do I hear that condition being
So
adopted?
moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, the garage will be used only for the storage of personal motor vehicles. This is the garage section, personal motor vehicles. Okay?
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
With regard, thank you, with regard to heating, only on the first floor. Motion to accept that condition.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Second,
Second?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
That there will be no plumbing in the new structure. Motion.
Motion to accept?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There will be electricity allowed in the structure. I don't think we have to accept that as or do that as a motion. And there will be a spigot allowed outside. I didn't ask you so much about lighting. Is there going to be outside lighting?
Yes.
Yes, some sconce lighting and a
Floodlight.
floodlight.
Okay, you're going to make sure that the lighting is angled downward, right?
Yep.
Let's do that as a condition. All outside lighting to be angled downward, because we don't want the light going out to the road or to the one neighbor that you have that's not family. Okay? Do I hear a motion? All outside lighting to be angled downward.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'm done with my conditions. Does anyone else have any conditions?
Nope.
No.
Ms. Mello, do you have any conditions you'd like to add to this?
No, I think this is great.
Well, congratulations again.
Thank you.
We are
Thank
now
you.
truly and thoroughly done.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
before
Oh, you
they
have to do
leave,
your-
yes.
do you want to have Ms. Cullum go through the process now?
Yes.
No, thank you.
You
I
know
don't
what-
know it.
Thank you.
Ms. Mello, why don't you go
want me
through
to do
it?
it?
Yes,
Yes,
Ms. Mello,
please.
would you please do it? She's a little discombobulated right now.
You didn't send me the
I put
instructions.
her on the line. I don't blame you, Jen, I didn't want to do it either.
But look at her now.
that, this has worked its way through the process, well, the decision will be written up and sent up to the building department. Once they receive it and stamp it, there is a 20-day appeal period. As long as no one, appeals this decision, you will be able to pick up the decision after 20 days. You take it to the Registry of Deeds down in Plymouth, you have it recorded, bring the paperwork back to the town hall, and you will be issued your building permit.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good job.
All
Good
right.
luck.
All set? Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Okay. Now, Ms. Cullum, who's an excellent reader, will read the next case into the record. That's case number 100-6-0-R, the petitioner being Wenham PV 1 LLC. Are they here tonight? Is it you two guys? Why don't you come on up while Ms. Cullum reads the public hearing notice into the record?
You all already read most of it.
Go ahead, Ms. Cullen.
Public hearing case 100-6X0-R, petitioner Wenham PV, requesting a variance pursuant to section 2320 of the Carver zoning bylaws for property located at 27 Wenham Road in Carver, Massachusetts, assessors map 100, lot 6-0-R, and map 100, lot 5, to construct a dual-use smart solar system. I don't know this word.
Agrivoltaic, is that?
That one, yes.
Photovoltaic?
In a residential agricultural district, a dimensional variance is being requested due to the need for frontage relief of approximately 45 feet. 150 feet is required.
Okay. Let me just get organized here with the case file. Thank you. Okay, we have received some correspondence in the record from Makepeace.
Sure.
And I just want to say at the outset, if somebody could pull that correspondence out for me. It's 4 pages, 2024, Makepeace. You find it in your records there, Ms. Dahl? Yes? No?
On KP Law?
Yep. No, that's town council.
I'm sorry, I don't think I have it.
Yeah.
Did you have it?
It's relative to easements. You have it.
Yeah, I have the easements.
Can you?
Yep,
no,
I
no,
sure
thank you,
can.
Mayor. Okay. And Makepeace is an abutter to this property, is that true?
That's correct.
And they have written to the board indicating that they agree to waive the requirements of the bylaw with regard to setback and also screening requirements. Now, I want to say for the record, and listen to me carefully on this, Makepeace cannot waive the requirements of the bylaws. They're not allowed to do that. You know who's allowed to do it? That's right. Let the record show that the petitioner just pointed at us.
We sure did.
So perhaps this is an inapt use of language by the author of this letter, who's Mr. Kane, not an attorney, but I'm assuming that this letter would have been reviewed in advance by counsel.
We did not receive that letter.
Okay, well, it's dated August 20, 2024, and is available to you in this file at any time.
Thank you.
You bet. Does everybody now have this letter in hand?
Yes.
Okay, because I sent it to everybody. And there it is, there, there's the easement that they
Yeah. I
have
remember
generated. In the letter, the cover letter is attached to that, and that's where they're saying that they agree to waive the requirements of the bylaw.
If I may, briefly, I know we haven't even started yet, but if I may, I believe it's possible that they may have sent that to you in error. I believe there's a provision under the large-scale solar provisions of the bylaw that abutters can waive the setback requirements to a certain extent, but I believe that should be going to the planning board because of the permit granting authority.
Yeah,
for
and that was
purpose.
another question I had. I
Yeah.
was wondering why this had come to us, but in any event, whether it was sent in error or not, that argument for me personally, and I don't speak, you sat through the first case, you know that I don't control these people, but for me, that's a non-starter. Nobody can come in as an individual or as a business and waive bylaws.
Of course not.
Okay, now having said that, there's another letter here that I see from the Department of Energy in Boston. You have that letter dated August 19, 2024?
Yes.
Everybody has that one? And Ms. Mello, I know you're following along. You've been careful about reviewing everything. You heard what I just had to say. So that's the one thing that I wanted to say at the outset. This is not an automatic for you guys just because your abutter says that we don't object. It would be like me moving next to your house and building 5 feet away from your property line. And, well, I can do that because the neighbors don't object. So, no. Now, having said that, could you folks identify yourself for the record?
Of course. David Burson from Legacy Counselors.
And where's your office, Mr. Person?
So I'm based out of Ludlow, Massachusetts. I've bounced around a little bit. Previously, I was working, had my own practice, and I was based out in Canton, Massachusetts, a little bit closer to here. And before that, I was out in Northampton, Massachusetts.
No, you've come a long way tonight, haven't you?
I have.
I used to hang out a bit in Northampton because
It's a fun town.
there was a school there that I had a few interactions with the students back in the day. You know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
And you, sir?
I'm Kyle Murphy. I represent Wenham PV1. I work for a company called Galehead Development.
And you're the petitioner in this case, is that true?
True.
And I ask, I know Mr. Person will probably be doing most of the talking tonight. If you have anything that you want to say, don't be afraid to say it. Just make sure that you use your big voice, okay?
Will do. Yeah.
All right. He and I know how to talk, but most people kind of lower their voice in these settings, and that's not good, especially with Ms. Mello so far away and participating remotely. Before you get into your presentation, I want to ask you whether you have any objection to Ms. Mello participating tonight remotely.
Not at all.
Okay. So, Mr. Person, I expect that you will be taking the lead on this.
That was the plan.
Okay. Well, speak right up, please, and tell us what you have in mind.
Wonderful. So I'm sure that many of you probably don't recall, I was actually here once before relative to this specific application back in 2021, and it's been a long, involved process.
Oh, you're much better looking now, by the way.
Thank you very much. So back in 2021, we had come informally before this board to discuss this specific variance request and application. Some things had changed since then. Essentially was a law that was passed in August of 2022 that made certain changes to the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 61, which deals with agricultural land and how it's classified for tax purposes. One of the things that occurred as part of that law that had been passed was essentially allowed for certain types of solar projects to continue to be classified as agricultural uses. And additionally, there seemed to have been a provision within that law that allowed those projects to be covered by Agricultural 40A Section 3, the Dover Amendment.
Did you make the argument previously that you were exempt?
So we came informally before the planning board,
Okay.
before we filed any applications, and kind of laid out our case to them. This is a brand new law. It hadn't been tested. And essentially their position at the time was, you can move forward with this under site plan review as this dual use project, essentially being
And
covered by
exempt from
this.
the requirements of zoning?
No, specifically, well, I guess to a certain extent, yes.
They would be wrong.
They sure were. So we went through the process, or we started the process with the planning board. The town's council had a different position, essentially, with respect to the applicability of the Dover Amendment relative to dual-use agrivoltaic projects, which is why we're back here before you tonight.
And everybody has that letter from town council. Is that true? Mm-hmm. Thank you. Continue.
So I had a conversation with town council, and she seemed to think that not only was this did this require a variance, but that this would actually be an appropriate situation for a variance, which is what I'm going to hopefully get into here right now.
And what relief are you looking for tonight?
So we are specifically requesting a dimensional variance with respect to the frontage requirement. The frontage requirement in the RA zoning district, as you guys well know, is 150 feet. We have 105 feet. This property is approximately 25.6 acres. It has a 7-acre existing cranberry bog on site, which has been there for, I think, decades at this point. The proposed project that we're looking to develop is a true dual-use agrivoltaic project, which means that it's actually designed to work in complement with the existing cranberry bog on site. So these panels will hopefully cover approximately 1.62 acres of the 7-acre cranberry bog, and will allow the cranberry bog to flourish underneath it, and they will continue to harvest the cranberries while still collecting solar on site. That is the hope. As part of our application here, there is an existing access way that effectively goes from Wenham Road. This is located at 27 Wenham Road. It goes all the way back to that cranberry bog on site. In addition to it having 105 feet of frontage, there's also a narrow choke point that occurs in that access
I
way.
remember this property.
Yeah, so
It's very narrow and skinny at the top, and then in the rear, it opens.
Exactly, and there's actually in the middle of that access way, it comes down to approximately 40 feet. So it somewhat prohibited us from looking at other avenues of permitting, such as potentially a flag lot or even a definitive subdivision. You couldn't put one here because you couldn't maintain the 50 feet that you require for that.
What other
subdivision
relief do you
roadway.
need besides the frontage?
It is just the frontage relief at
Screening.
this point. I don't believe we will need the screening relief.
Why?
There's significantly dense vegetation. It's a relatively wooded property. So we will be sufficiently screened from abutters where the actual array takes place on the cranberry bog.
So you say, but apparently your abutter believes that you may need screening relief. Do you know why they might be saying that?
I'm not sure. I think that is in response to that specific section of the bylaw relative to the type of relief in that instance was that the board could potentially allow for a reduced setback if the abutter essentially signs an affidavit to the effect that they're okay with it. I think Kyle would like to speak up and
Yes,
say something.
Kyle's going to get that very close to his mouth.
Yeah, if I
Use a big voice.
Yeah, I did. I submitted that the letter from Makepeace because we got that agreement with them because they own the property. They own the properties to the east, south, and west of us. And on the western side of the cranberry bog, the panels are about 50 feet from the property line, and the bylaws require 200-foot setback.
That's true.
Unless it's waived by the abutter to reduce it to 50 feet. So that's
Well,
the whole-
again, he can't waive it. He might say, I don't have objections,
right.
but he can't waive it. Go ahead.
So that's the intent of that. That's the whole reason that we have that,
Okay.
that letter.
Well, thank you for filling that in.
Yeah.
Mr. Burson, continue.
Thank you. So ultimately, there's a dearth of required frontage needed for an access road here. And unfortunately, this project is, or not just this project, but this parcel is really not usable for any other purpose due to not only the insufficient frontage, but because of that choke point. It's very limited in terms of what this property could actually be used for.
Is that choke point going to be wide enough to allow trucks to go in and out of there?
It will. So the choke point comes to about 40 feet, so it's still sufficiently wide, and we do have a negotiated easement with AD Makepeace allowing us to actually utilize at least a portion of their property for that access
And also
way.
to the point, have you consulted with public safety about this? They're going to need sufficient turnaround radiuses for their vehicles?
We have, yeah. The fire department has been involved. We've been in front of the planning board.
Do you have any documentation from them?
We do, yeah. We got a letter from
Where
the
is
fire.
it? I don't see it in the file.
I apologize. I didn't include it in the file. I can share it on this.
We will be happy to provide that with this board.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to be quiet for a little while. I do want to advise you that whatever decision this board makes is going to be written by Ms. Mello, who is listening very intently and has read, I assure you, all of the submissions to date. So, Ms. Mello, let's have you start off tonight and ask these nice gentlemen whatever questions you might have.
Okay, I want just some clarification on what you've already talked about. The total site is 25.6 acres, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. The array that you're proposing is 1.62 acres, correct?
That's correct.
And how many acres of cranberry bogs are being farmed? Is it 17?
7.
Now, on the choke point, you said the road is about 40 feet. Is it 40 feet?
So to clarify, the choke point where the access way narrows is 40 feet.
It is 40 feet,
Correct.
okay.
It's like-
And are you going to need us to waive a 200-foot buffer on AD Makepeace's sidewalk?
I don't believe that the setback waiver would apply to the access road, but the board may correct me if I'm wrong about that. I think it would apply to the,
Not the access road.
Right.
No, it does not apply to the
Okay.
access road. It applies to the photo arrays. Are the photo arrays
Down
within 200 feet?
Yes.
so yes, it looks like at the southern portion of where the, down here as well, right?
Yeah, it's the south and the west.
The south and west side, yes, we'll be seeking relief then.
Right, so you have, you're going to need frontage relief and you're going to need,
That's correct. Setback relief relative to the south and western portions of the property line.
you got that notated, Ms. Mello?
Yes.
And how
Yep.
much relief do you need?
It would be, is it going right to 50?
Yes. So 100.
So 150 feet of relief relative to the setback requirements on the southern and western portions of the site.
So this would be Joe.
Okay, and on frontage, you need 45 feet?
That's correct.
Okay.
You with them?
I'm not quite sure where they're,
I'll ask you a question when she's done.
okay.
Is that it for now, Ms. Mello?
That's it for now.
Mr. Barrington has a question.
So I'm on the second sheet, and I'm trying to locate where you are, where you need this other relief.
May I approach? Is
Yeah.
that- Okay.
That would make it quicker.
Okay. So then obviously the frontage is up here.
Yep.
And then the setback relief will be here and then here.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have sufficient setback relief,
For the remainder of the
the
property.
remainder
there's
of the
one-
property.
Right.
and you don't need it up at the
I,
top.
not unless this board's position is that the access road counts relative to the setback requirements, but I don't think that would make sense.
Why wouldn't it make sense?
Well, I believe the bylaws exempt the access road from
I don't remember reading that. Ms. Mello, who can't hear this conversation,
No, I cannot.
we're
Mike's on.
We're discussing whether he's going to need setback relief for the access road. And Mr. Burson's position is that the bylaws do not require that. And since you're kind of taking the lead on this, I'm sure Mr. Burson would like to get your opinion, although I think you've expressed
would.
it already. Do you believe,
An access road is an access road. To my understanding, and I did sit on the committee for the photo array and the solar bylaw committee, the access road has nothing to do with the boundaries of the panels. The 200-foot setback that can be, and a butter could give permission to waive if it made sense, has to do with the setting of the panels, not the access road.
music to your ears, Mr. Burson?
Thank you very much, Ms. Mello.
In my file, I saw a, looks like an assessor's sheet. And taxes are all paid up, right, on this property? Yes, you're current?
Yes.
And there's a house on here. And I'm going to ask you to approach again and tell me about this house that's on the assessor's sheet. What does this have to do with anything?
Can I see?
Yes, you may approach. This apparently was taken on January 2, 2007. What does that represent there? Show it to Mr. Burson.
It's not on the property. This potentially, this doesn't even look like the neighbor's house though.
May I? Thank you.
And while they're looking, Ms. Mello, do you have a copy of the assessor's card or sheet on this? Could you take a picture, Ms. Cullum, send it to her? Thank you.
It's very interesting, particularly as if you look at the valuation right above the photo, there's no valuation for any buildings. So it's very strange.
I'm not trying to trick
No,
or
that's-
trap anybody here. It
No,
just seemed
this is-
odd to me when I opened the file and I saw this in there. I'm like, what the?
Yeah, this is
What
this,
in heaven's name is this?
this is very strange. Just on the second page, it also has a reference to a vacant lot. So I'm not sure. It's not our house.
Okay. So there
It's
is,
not your house.
It's not our house. Yeah.
there's no house at all
I've
on,
never heard someone
that
give up a
property.
house so quickly.
Yeah. And I'm a real estate attorney, and I don't think that was a valid conveyance.
Can I get that back?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
It says that the date of sale was February 8th, 2024, if I'm reading this right.
That would have
To-
been when you purchased it.
to
You know,
Wyndham
perhaps this
LLC.
photo, and I'm just guessing wildly, was transposed inaccurately from a different
Well,
property.
if you look down below, it's saying, 0 floors, foundation, 0.
Yeah, everything is zero.
Everything's
Yeah,
zeros.
there's nothing there.
So
It's very odd.
I think the picture doesn't go with the property.
It doesn't. It's strange.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask that Mr. Barrington get on the case immediately. Put on your Sherlock Holmes cap. Anyway, now that we've addressed that issue, I want to ask the peaking Ms. Dahl if she has any questions for you.
Well, when you said that you had hoped that that was the way it was gonna work, have these dual things been?
So this is, as I mentioned, this is a brand new, 2022. It's a very, very new statute, or at least change to an existing statute. And quite frankly, there is little to no case law relative to how these new provisions of the Massachusetts general law should be interpreted. I think to a certain extent, a number of these provisions are rife, or really ready for litigation. We certainly don't want to be the entity that is litigating and creating case law. That's never our goal. Specifically, for instance, there's not only the provision relative to potentially use protections in accordance with agricultural uses, but there's also now some confusion relative to the purpose of the underlying change to the law, which was allowing these types of projects to be classified for agriculture, under chapter land.
Right.
Because the purpose of the law was to allow these specific types of approved projects to be continued and maintained on property that can remain within Chapter 61. Unfortunately, the way that these projects are actually approved, in order to be qualified as an ASTGU by the DOER, it requires that you obtain your permits from the underlying permit granting authority, which unfortunately creates a significant amount of gray area relative to the classification of the underlying land remaining in chapter land. Because if it requires the approval in order to be qualified as an ASTGU,
Right.
and it needs that approval in order to remain in chapter land, how do you keep the project in chapter land without, which is where we are now. We're unfortunately in a position where we're going to have to convert the property out of chapter land and then put it back in chapter land after the fact, even though this is supposedly what the law was
designed
trying to
to
do.
do.
Correct. So it's as I mentioned, it's a very new section of, or area of the law. And while we were hopeful, we are certainly prepared to move forward with this process. However, town council and ZBA and planning board feel is the best way to do so.
And the viability of the cranberry bogs underneath?
So that's part of what takes so long with this process is that these types of arrays require input not just from the Department of Energy Resources, but also the UMass Agricultural Extension. There's a lot of players who are involved in the development of these types of, specifically these types of projects, because the hope is that they are encouraged and continue to be developed in Massachusetts as a, you know, as a preferred type of solar development.
And our bylaw, I believe, suggests that our policy should be to promote this sort of clean energy. So, and I see that referenced at the beginning of the bylaw relative to photovoltaic arrays. Ms. Mello, back to you.
I took a lot of time looking over the documents that came in with the project last month, and I don't have a lot of questions about this.
Mr. Barrington, though, may have some questions, does he?
No, I don't have any.
You have no questions.
No.
But I know Ms. Cullum must have some questions. She's assuming the thinker pose.
No.
What do you say?
I don't have any questions.
She has no questions, Ms. Mello.
Oh. I don't have any questions.
Jen, you've been awesome tonight, thank you.
Anybody in the audience have any questions? Ladies, none? They're shaking their heads no, they want to get home and go to bed. So do I. Any final words, gentlemen?
No, just thank you for having us tonight. It's been a while to come back to you guys, but we do appreciate you having us.
And you have to drive back to Ludlow tonight, do you? Is that where you live too?
I live in Hamden, Massachusetts, so it's
You have a long ride back.
bit of a drive
You're going to
back.
driving through the snow, maybe?
I'm hoping that's not the case. It's supposedly not starting till 10 tonight, so I've got my fingers crossed.
Okay. So, I think at this point, if there are no further questions or comments or issues for discussion, I'd like to hear a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I did want to ask you before we go to voting. You've appeared before the planning board. I take it, is that true?
That's correct. So there was initially a site plan review application that was filed. We've subsequently also filed a special permit application with the planning board. And I believe, we were before the Conservation Commissions, but I believe, are we all set?
Yeah.
Do you
Well,
have
we
orders
finalized
or
it.
decisions that have come down from either one of those?
Conservation Commission, I believe, has issued an order of conditions.
What about planning?
No, they're essentially waiting at this point to see what happens here.
They do that.
They do that,
Sometimes.
not just in Carver.
I'm going to ask, since Ms. Mello is going to be writing this decision, for you to provide the planning department here with a copy of the Conservation Department Order of Conditions,
Sure.
so we can reference dates and votes and so forth. Is that agreeable to you, Ms. Mello? So you have whatever information you might need.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Can I just, and you said you had the letter from safety as far as with regard to access to the site and all of that? Can you just make
Yeah,
sure
we'll,
that that's?
yeah, we'll make that a condition.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Dahl, you're absolutely right. So, we have now closed the public hearing, and I suggest that the following findings be made, or findings, one finding in this case. That owing to circumstances relating to the soil condition, shape, and/or topography of the structures of the lot, and in your particular case, the shape, but not affecting the district generally, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the bylaw would involve substantial hardship to the petitioner. Relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the bylaw. That's a finding that I ask the board to consider and vote on. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that finding serves as the foundation for the decision which we're about to make. And that decision is going to be that we are going to consider granting variances under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 10, of 45 feet frontage, correct? And also, how many feet did we say on
150,
150 for the side, right?
southwest side.
Southwest
Yep.
side. And that these variances be granted from the Carver zoning bylaws. Again, owing to the shape of the lot, primarily. Do I hear a motion to grant those dimensional variances?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now we're going to talk about conditions. And one of the conditions is that before any construction can begin out there, that you have to provide a sign-off from the public safety. And I think at this juncture, the fire department takes the lead on the public safety issues rather than the police department. They have plenty to deal with as it is. Do I hear a motion to accept that condition?
Motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So you're going to have to provide that information and make sure that the fire department is satisfied with turnaround radiuses and so forth. We also haven't really talked too much about screening. Does anybody want to say anything with regard to screening? Their position, Ms. Mello and other members of the board, is that the screening really isn't necessary in this case because there's a lot of woods around there. Is that true? Yes?
That's correct. Sorry.
Is there potential for that to change?
And, you know, because of the fact that it's cranberry lawns, it's agricultural, it's not a neighborhood. It's a very minor portion of 25 acres of land.
And very far off the
I
road.
don't see it necessary.
Okay, everybody agree with that?
Agree.
Yes.
Yes? It's very far off the road, too. It's way back in there. So we've got one condition for the public safety, and there was another condition. I didn't write it down because Ms. Mello is doing all of that. What was the other
Yep.
condition? What was the other condition that we had talked about?
Concom.
Yes.
Concom.
Yeah, we need the order of conditions sent to Ms. Mello and also made a part of the board record. And any other conditions? How about hours of work at the property? There's going to be a lot of trucks in and out of there excavating equipment, I would expect. There's going to be rumblings and vibration of the land. Anybody have any concern about that?
I think we ought to be concerned about the hours,
Yeah.
so that way people who live on Wenham Street aren't going to have an issue
Close
with.
to the horse farm? Is that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't want to say one way or the other. I
Ms.
can't.
Mello, what do you think about establishing hours of work as a condition?
Are you talking about during construction?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was my assumption.
How long do you believe the construction's going to take?
Probably three or 4 months.
He said 3 or 4 months. He's using his little
Yeah.
voice. So
Yep.
I'm thinking if it's going to be that long, there probably should be some condition for hours of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
In deference to the neighbors, even though there aren't many neighbors around there. So why don't we say 8 to 5, Monday through Friday? Is that good? Ms. Mello,
Sounds good.
8 to 5, Monday through Friday? She doesn't like that.
I was gonna say 7 to 5.
That's what I was thinking too.
I don't think
But I don't
7's
know.
all that early.
What's common?
What's the town noise bylaw?
I don't know. That's-
It's up to us to decide what hours we want to.
Yep, yep.
I don't want us to get hung up over this, but
We'd
If
appreciate
you're
the
good with
extra
8
hour.
to 5, I'll go with 8 to 5.
what do you want?
We'd prefer the extra hour, if only for the. I don't know that we'd actually use the extra hour, but
Well, that's 10 hours.
I don't do the
7 to 5 would be
construction,
10 hours.
so-
That's a lot of hours. Let's do 7 to 5.
Thank you.
All in favor of that
Thank you,
condition?
Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. All in favor of that condition?
Aye.
First of all, somebody's got to make the motion.
Make a motion to accept
Accept what?
Second?
the hours of 7 to 5 for construction.
For construction, and Ms. Mello just seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any other conditions that you want to place on this? You have to go back to the planning board for anything?
Yes, we're still before the planning board for the special permit and site plan review.
Where are you with that?
I believe we've given them pretty much everything they need besides, at this point, the area variance.
You on their agenda for the next meeting?
Tentatively, yeah, pending the outcome of this meeting for February 25th.
That's right, because they're deferring to us,
Correct.
as they should. Ms. Mello is smirking. You have anything further to say on this issue, Ms. Mello?
I think that's said enough.
Anybody else with conditions? Gentlemen, are you clear? So you have variances on the frontage, you have variance for the, is it the southwest corner, Ms. Mello?
Yes.
I think
She'll
it's,
be writing up this
There should be
decision.
two,
right, because
There's 2
it's the
points of
south and
reference
then
that
it's the
you're
west.
applying.
It's,
Right.
right.
Okay, you got that?
Yep,
Okay,
south and west.
right. And you got the footages? You got the footages?
Yep,
Okay,
45 and 150.
good. 45 on the frontage,
Yep,
150 on the other ones.
On each of the
150-foot
sides.
variance in the frontage would be a little problematic.
on the buffer zone.
Okay, so I think we're done with conditions. Does anybody have anything else? If not,
No.
No.
and we've all voted on these already, so I don't think we need to take any more votes, other than to say good luck with the planning board.
Thank you very much. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And don't forget to sign Tom
Mr.
out.
Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're going to
I'm gonna
give your
write it
little
down.
speech. She has a speech that she's going to give.
it's the same as we spoke with the last applicants. We'll be writing up the decision. It should go up to town hall early next week. Once they receive it and stamp it, it's a 20-day appeal period where someone has the right to come in and say, hey, we're not happy with it. If no one appeals, you can pick up the decision, take it down to the Registry of Deeds, have it recorded, come back. And at this point, I don't really know how you're gonna handle the planning board, except this, once you get the decision, you can say it's in appeals and see where they take it from here. Okay?
Thank you.
What else you got?
That's the only one we had for tonight.
Does that mean you're coming back?
I wasn't planning on it,
Okay.
but I'm sure.
Okay, well, it's a pleasure meeting both of you folks. Good luck with this project. It clearly is something that's going to be so far off the road that the only time that anybody should be bothered by it is during the construction period, which is why I suggested the hours of operation.
That makes sense.
Let's at least let people have their Saturdays and Sundays and evenings without rumblings and other excavating sounds. Okay?
Good.
And you're going to produce the other documents
Yep.
that we're looking for. This is before construction is to begin.
Understood.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I can't write the decision until I get those documents, correct? You guys will get them over to me ASAP?
Yeah, we have them in hand, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
I think you can write the decision in anticipation of receiving the documents. So the decision could read something, if they don't get it to you in time, as you sit down to write, you could say something like, this decision is subject to receipt of, so on and so
Okay.
forth, before construction can commence. Okay?
Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
yep. Thank you.
All
Thank
those
you all
years
very
in
much.
school, and I learned that little trick.
Thank
you
you.
again.
Where'd you go to law school?
New York Law.
New York, NYU.
No, not NYU, New York Law School. There's another law school in New York.
And it's called what?
It's called New York Law School.
Where's that located?
So it's not, well, it's in like the Tribeca area of New York City.
Where's that at?
It's not far from where the World Trade Centers were.
So there's an NYU and then there's a New York University?
There is, yeah. Yeah.
Because I went to law school in New York and I never heard of that.
Where did you go to law school?
Went to Albany, part of
Oh,
Union.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Where I took the bar exam,
Yes.
University of Albany.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, thank you again for having us. I
Thank you.
appreciate
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Drive back carefully, both of you, wherever you live. Don't go too fast. Right, Mr. Barrington?
That's correct.
Okay, I have a couple of things I want to go over. That's the last of our cases for this evening. I'll write up the first one. Ms. Mello will write up the second one. We'll disseminate it so that everybody could review it in advance of signing and filing with the town clerk's office. Okay? Usual process. Now,
Should we go ahead and sign their papers so they can head out? It's 2 hours
yes,
for
are
them.
you, are you wanting us to sign something? Yes.
It's been 2 hours. Let's give them a break.
Yeah, let's see, we started about 20, what time did we start? About 12 of.
Well,
It's
they've
been
been
about
here,
an hour and a
they were
half.
here,
But you were here a little bit earlier than
Yeah.
that, weren't you? Well then, I think we can see our way to giving you 2 hours.
yeah, if
Okay.
you want to come on up.
You guys in the 9th grade or 10th grade?
I'll take one of them.
Mr. Barrington, you may do the honors. Ms. Mello, you want to sign one too?
Sure, send it over.
Yeah.
2 hours. Thank you.
He's a slow writer.
Are we doing the phone number, email?
Yeah, phone number and how many hours?
I'd like to make sure it's legible. That's why I take my time.
Thank you, girls.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, ladies.
Okay, we have some items about which to talk, and I'm going to take the lead on this because I kind of serve as the clearinghouse for administrative issues in between meetings. And
Yeah.
I'll just mention a few things. And the first of these is that very recently I received opinions from town council on the authority of the building commissioner to react and/or respond to complaints made about possible zoning violations in the town of Carver. Town council also provided opinions with regard to the proper counting of square footage under the bylaw. Now, this is a zoning issue. It's not, for MLS purposes, how you count square footage of your home. It's for zoning purposes. And that opinion letter has been received and reviewed by yours truly, and I took the step to disseminate it to each and every one of you as well, and I want to make sure that you received it and have reviewed it.
Yes.
My read of that letter, and to you as well, Ms. Mello, is that this letter is fully in support of the position that the board in large part was arguing at our last meeting, which is first as to the authority of the building commissioner. He or she has the discretion and authority to react and respond to alleged violations of the bylaw as the zoning enforcement officer. It's not required that he receive a written complaint. not required. And insofar as the other issue, the square footage issue is concerned, the way the bylaw is written, based upon the opinion of town council, if there's a full floor, meaning a walkable floor, even if it's just used for storage, you count that.
Right.
Again, based on the definition. Now, we don't often think about a plywood floor being used primarily for square footage as a second floor whose square footage should be counted. But again, this is not an approach that we would normally take if we were trying to sell our house, right? This is zoning for zoning purposes only based upon the way the bylaw is written. So I think that we have been interpreting this correctly based on the opinions of the town council, for whom I have a great deal of respect, even though she's agreeing with us on this, or agreeing with most of us on this, I think. And I have said in the past that there have been times when I have disagreed with town council, and I've spoken out about that, but I think she's really provided a very good memo letter to us explaining her positions and why she's taken those positions. So I guess the first thing I want to ask the board, now that they've acknowledged receiving this letter and reviewing it, is if they are willing and prepared at this time to release it to the building commissioner so that he can review it.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Mello.
Yes.
So I'll take steps to do that. I'll send that to him tomorrow, the next day. Given my schedule, it's really crazy, and I'm not going to be working a full day Friday. So I have to try to get this off to him as soon as I can. I think that should clear up any confusion about what comes from the planning department going forward. If someone has an issue which appears to be a valid issue concerning a zoning problem that has been identified, and he really should be looking at this to determine whether a full-scale investigation on his end is necessary or not. Now, we all know that we have people in town that might be complaining, but without basis, about real zoning basis, without a full understanding. So I'm not saying that if you call the zoning commissioner or the building commissioner, he has to go run out and look at every property about which he's ever received a complaint. But if he sees something on his drive-bys, or if he has received sufficient information from a reliable source, he has the authority on his own to go ahead and investigate this, and it's not necessary for him to get a written complaint. Okay? This came up at the last hearing, ladies and gentlemen, in town of Carver who may be watching, because the building commissioner was here and appeared to take the position in large part that he needed a written complaint before he would react. Not necessary. There was also pushback on how we have been calculating square footage. And I think that now has been cleared up, and second floors do need to be counted based upon the wording of the current bylaw. Now, the current bylaw can always be changed.
Correct.
But right now, the way it's written, we've been looking at this correctly. And we looked at it, I think, correctly tonight when we had to count that second floor on our first case.
Yep.
He's not been doing this. He's been basing square footage on building footprint.
Right.
That's different than gross floor area, which is what's defined in the bylaw, or what's mentioned in the bylaw. Gross floor area is the floor area that's enclosed by four walls. That's the floor, not the building footprint.
Right.
By which he's been going. So we need to make that clear, and because we need to make it clear, I have drafted something on my own, and I'm going to show it to each and every one of you tonight to see if you have any issue with this now being attached to zoning applications going forward. We know that when people go in and ask for relief, they have to fill out a packet, right? The former chair of this board, Sharon Clark, and myself participated in drafting that packet, which compels applicants to make their case in writing before they come before us, whether it's for special permit or most especially for variances. So I want this added because we're going to see going forward, and have seen already, an uptick in requests for oversized garages. Okay? So this says, and I'll read it into the record, it's titled Memo to All Applicants Seeking Square Footage Relief for Accessory Structures under Section 2245 of the Town of Carver bylaw. What we're talking about here primarily is garages. And what it says is, garages are accessory structures under the bylaw. It says the Zoning Board of Appeals for the Town of Carver has determined unanimously, following advice received from Town Council, that square footage shall include as many floors and have a full floor, even if just plywood or space used for storage. Accordingly, all applicants must count square footage based on as many full floors as may be depicted on applicable building plans in calculating the relief needed under the bylaws. Short and sweet, it puts everybody on notice how we do our business here, and we'll take it from there. Does anybody have any objection to this being attached to our packet, which is given to applicants who come to the building department?
No.
No.
Everybody good on this? What about you, Ms. Mello? You good with that?
Yes, I agree. It should go on our packet.
Yep. This is an effort to be helpful. It's not an effort to call anybody out. It's just an effort to be helpful and to kind of forewarn applicants that when they come in thinking that their accessory structure is 1,000 square feet, but they have a second floor and they're not counting that, then it really changes the calculation. And we saw that tonight where we had to give, 1,100 square feet of relief to that first petitioner based upon a full second floor. Now, when I say a full second floor, I mean a walkable floor. I don't mean one of these floors where it's just beams and hippity hop to the barber shop kind of walking. That's not a full floor. If it's a walkable floor, that's a full floor. Okay? So if everybody approves, then I will send this over to the planning department with the instruction that we have unanimously agreed to have this attached to our packet. Okay?
Yes.
And this sort of takes the onus away from the building commissioner, who no longer needs to have to put people on notice or have arguments with people about how to count square footage or not. He may, as he did the last time, he may think about square footage as being calculated based upon building footprint, but that's not the right way to do it according to town council.
What does that mean for everybody that has been approved up to this point?
I would say they're grandfathered in.
Their grandfather?
Yeah, we're not going to go back and open cases. It's just that we get so many of these accessory structure requests now, more than any other. Seems like everybody's building garages, right, Mr. Barrington? Are you
Yes,
going to
they
build a
are.
garage?
Yep.
Are you going to build one?
I already have one.
Okay. You're grandfathered in.
Yes, I am.
All right, so I'm pleased to be able to report all this to the board, because I know that there was a lot of discussion and a lot of concern about this as we kept going over this section 2245 part of the bylaw for accessory structures. It seemed like almost every meeting. So we'll get that hopefully clarified for people in town, so there won't be any more confusion about it. This is an attempt to make things as clear as possible for everybody going forward. So that's the first thing I wanted to report. We do have, moving on to the next thing, a case that would have been heard tonight, but has been moved. So we have a case in the queue for which we're going to need to schedule a new date. So I ask everybody to pull out their calendars and give me a date in March. No earlier than the middle of the month. 6:30 start time.
The 26th is best for me. I'm unavailable the Wednesday before that. The 19th, I won't be here.
Where are you going?
I will be at Gillette Stadium.
You watching the Revs, are you?
No, it's season member night. Where they give us a meal and they have speakers and the president of the board and coach and
Nice. The 26th works for me.
Ms. Cullum?
I answered.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Ms. Dahl?
Yep, yep.
And Ms. Mello? Will you be back
Yes.
from the wilds of Florida by March 26th?
No, sir, I will not.
So you will participate again remotely? Because we like to see
If
you in
it's
the,
okay.
we like to see you in the little square.
If it's okay with Mr. Chairman and the rest of the board, I would like to call in one more time.
All right, you can call in anytime. Just don't call in after hours. Now, the next thing I want to go over is I have been made aware, and this is just for the board's own education. Our last meeting on the Save the Pine Barrens case, it was brought to our attention that the Earth Removal Committee had heard that, their concerns in various, a hearing at least, I don't know how many, that the Earth Removal Committee had concerning that property that came back before us again, and on which we made a
On
decision
federal.
most recently. So that case went up on appeal, the decision that the Earth Removal Committee made, and the decision of the Earth Removal Committee was sustained, and the appeal filed by Save the Pine Barrens was dismissed by the Superior Court judge. I don't have any information about whether there's an intent to appeal that decision, but I know that the initial appeal to the Superior Court judge, and this is a judge different than the other ones who have already heard these series of appeals, this is a new judge, has dismissed that case. So that's for your own education. Our appeal, or their appeal of our decision, is still pending. That's the appeal that was taken after the Earth Removal Committee appeal was taken. And so that's what I have on that. And let's see if I have anything else. I think, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for this evening. Ms. Dahl, do you have anything? Look, she's all packed up and ready to go. Look at that.
No, what, can I make a personal thank you? On a personal note for something?
Afterwards, if it has nothing to do with business.
All right, good.
Ms. Cullum?
Nope. I'll make the motion to adjourn if everybody's good.
Well, I must ask the spiffily dressed Mr. Barrington first, whether he has any objections.
I have no objections.
And Ms. Mello, who's been so helpful
It's
tonight.
been great seeing everyone.
You
Right.
I have
too.
no objections.
All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, Carver.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.